Okay, rather than criminal.
They did not have another government to establish.
Right. Yeah. And God never intended for there to be kings
Right.
in Israel.
Right.
He was supposed to be their king. It was supposed to be a theocracy, a true theocracy. You could even call it a deocracy if you wanted, you know.
That's when Israel asked for king.
Yeah.
God was like, "You really sure?
Yeah.
Probably not going to go."
Well, it's like, you know, like I was saying to you earlier, when Jeremiah is there in the Old Testament lesson. It's in the Old Testament, it's never a good thing when a prophet comes to town. It's because you've messed up. Somebody's messed up. He's not coming to bless you and tell you all the good things. That's what Jeremiah was saying in our text. He says, yeah, hopefully that happens. But you know, most prophets, they don't be preaching that kind of stuff. So, yes.
He knows, based on our sinful nature, we're going to mess up. And you can't just go,
Well, have you ever read the book of Judges? It's a fascinating study. It really is, because what you see is the judges arise, or God calls a judge when the people start straying away. He always, the purpose of the judge was to bring them back to him, return to the Lord. It was always, no, you guys are worshiping these other guys. No, you have to come back. You know, yeah, the perfect example of the judge is Samson, of course, right? And the Philistines. The people are, the Philistines are attacking. God appoints Samson as a judge. Samson took a Nazirite vow. Anybody know what a Nazirite vow is? Or his mother took it for him. It's Samson, yeah. Nazirite vow, which his mother took it. There are certain conditions, and God actually establishes it here, that somebody can take a Nazirite vow. You can take it for a period of time, or you can take it for your whole life. One of the conditions was that the hair on his head was never to be cut. Okay. And there's no drinking of, I don't know. There were several things you can't be, which was really interesting, is you shouldn't be near a dead body. Otherwise you'll be unclean, which, it doesn't say anything about causing dead bodies, which in Samson's case, he did quite a bit. But those, we should look that up sometime. All right, so let's look at these laws. Chapter 22, verse 1. If a man steals an ox or a sheep and kills it or sells it, he shall repay 5 oxen for an ox and 4 for a sheep. If a thief is found breaking in and is struck so that he dies, there shall be no blood guilt for him. That sounds like Texas. But if the sun has risen on him, there shall be blood guilt for him. He shall surely pay. If he has nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. Okay. If the stolen beast is found alive in his possession, whether it is an ox or a donkey or a sheep, he shall pay double. If a man causes a field or vineyard to be grazed over, or lets his beast loose and it feeds another man's field, he shall make restitution from the best of his own field and in his own vineyard. Makes sense. If fire breaks out and catches in thorns so that the stacked grain or the standing grain or the field is consumed, he who started the fire shall make full restitution. If a man gives to his neighbor money or goods to keep safe, and it is stolen from the man's house, then if the thief is found, he shall pay double. If the thief is not found, the owner of the house shall come near to God to show whether or not he has put his hand to his neighbor's property. For every breach of trust, whether it is for an ox, for a donkey, for a sheep, for a cloak, or for any kind of lost thing, of which one says, "This is it," the case of both parties shall come before God. The one whom God condemns shall pay double to his neighbor. If a man gives to his neighbor a donkey or an ox or a sheep or any beast to keep safe, and it dies or is injured or is driven away without anyone seeing it, An oath by the Lord shall be between them both to see whether or not he has put his hand to his neighbor's property. The owner shall accept the oath, and he shall not make restitution. But if it is stolen from him, he shall make restitution to its owner. If it is torn by beasts, let him bring it as evidence. He shall not make restitution for what has been torn. If a man borrows anything of his neighbor and it is injured or dies, the owner not being with it, he shall make full restitution. If the owner was with it, he shall not make restitution. If it was hired, it came for its hiring fee. So let's just stop there for a second. As Tom said, these are very specific and they're very sensible laws. Doesn't it seem like? Although that first one, if a man steals, what was it? If a thief is found breaking in and is struck so that he dies, there shall be no blood guilt on him. But if the sun has risen on him, there shall be blood guilt for him. He shall surely pay. So, and I was trying to figure that out. Does the NIV say something a little bit easier to understand?
Very similar. It says if the thief is caught breaking in and is struck so that he dies, the defender is not guilty of bloodshed.
Okay.
If it happens after sunrise, he is guilty of bloodshed.
Oh, okay.
Sneaks in at night. You got all, you can
Yeah.
kill that little guy, ace him out.
Well,
During
if
the day when you can see who it is.
yeah, during the day when you can see who it is, you probably then okay. Like I said, it sounded like Texas. Yeah, well, yeah, the whole idea of the castle doctrine, and there's a lot of states that have a castle doctrine. That's
When I heard that, I thought, if it happens right then and there, and you shoot, you kill him, just like.
yeah,
But if after the sunrise, you go after him and then kill him. You're not just.
right. So in other words, if you hunt him down and kill him, that makes more sense after sunrise. Yeah,
It reads kind of like our penal code, except it's more narrative. So he gives these examples of, just like you're saying, and all of it is basically murder is wrong, but here's all these different situations where murder is still wrong, and then the degrees.
yeah. First and second degree manslaughter.
Well, here's a footnote. It says the act of self-defense in darkness does not produce blood guilt. Killing an intruder in broad daylight is not justified.
Okay.
So if it's daylight, you just say, okay, go ahead and steal.
You break his arm, you don't kill him.
Well,
That's right.
You can use a stun gun, or you can defend yourself,
Right.
possibly tying him up till the police get there. But
Yeah.
point the gun and give him a chance to run.
Well, I was trained that never point your gun at something you don't intend to destroy, or without the will to use it. That's. I'm not saying once you point it, you have to use it. I'm just saying you should be willing.
You've been loaded at night and unloaded during the day.
Why on earth would you do that? So one in the chamber at night, one not in the chamber during the day? That doesn't make any sense. Yes, Tom?
The way I read this was that in the daylight, you've got a better chance to see what's
To identify,
and
yeah.
maybe not be as surprised.
And the thief coming in at night is much more likely to be malicious intent, possibly even intending to kill you. Yeah, what it says here is that, what does it say? Where is it? Nighttime intrusion would make it hard for the homeowner to know whether the intruder meant harm or not. Okay. Or merely to steal. Lethal force would be justified. However, if the intrusion occurred during daylight hours and it was evident that the intruder meant only to steal, then lethal force would not be justified. Makes sense. Yeah. I mean, they didn't have the bright, security lights that pop on at night, like you hear. All right. And as I said, a lot of these laws make sense. You know, that last one, if you're borrowing an animal from your neighbor, you know, and it's injured or dies, the owner and the owner's not with it, then you have to pay for it. It's in your care. We would call that a bailment. Is that what it's called? I think it's called a bail. In other words, they are that if you're watching somebody else's dog and the dog dies in your care, you know, it's generally considered, and I'm not talking about dies of old age in your care. I'm talking like if by your negligence the dog gets out and gets hit by a car, then it's your fault. You know, it's not the owner's fault. They weren't even there. But if the owner's there and then it makes, like, again, it makes sense. If the owner's there and the dog gets out and runs across the street and gets hit, you can't be blamed for that because the owner will have greater control over the dog or over the animal or something like that. Yeah, it's a responsibility for the animal. So, yeah. So, yeah, like I said, it makes perfect sense to me. All right. Let's look at social justice. Now, this doesn't mean what we think it means. Okay. If a man seduces a virgin who is not betrothed and lies with her, he shall give the bride price for her and make her his wife. All right. Yeah, that's exactly it. What's that? It's literally it. Yeah. If her father utterly refuses to give her to him, he shall pay money equal to the bride price for virgins. Number 18, you shall not permit a sorceress to live. Yeah, I mean, it's punishment for sorcery is death. Literally, that's it. Number 19, whoever lies with an animal shall be put to death. Okay, that's exactly the, bestiality. It's a sin of bestiality. So, whoever sacrifices to any god other than the Lord alone shall be devoted to destruction. That's an interesting turn of phrase. Shall be devoted to destruction. See page 6. That's what I'm looking at my notes here. See page 6. Page 6. I'm looking for devote. Okay. The Hebrew is haram, to give over to the Lord by totally destroying. The related noun is cherem, that which is to be given to the Lord by destruction. The Lord declared idolatrous Canaanites and some of their cities as cherem. Right. The idea is related to, but not the same as holiness, because both involve bans and restrictions. Things and persons associated with evil are forbidden to Israel and therefore destroyed. Holy things may also be forbidden to Israel generally, yet are preserved for the priests and Levites. So it's that devoted to destruction, that whole phrase. In other words, it's set aside to give over to the Lord by totally destroying. An offering, a burnt offering would be an example, right? You're burning, if it's a grain offering, you're totally destroying that, but you're giving it to the Lord. So, whoever sacrifices other than the Lord alone shall be devoted to destruction. So it's a death sentence. It sounds like they are to be given to the Lord as a sacrifice.
But wouldn't that go hand in hand if you're sacrificing to an idol?
Right.
You're not accepting or living in the gift of salvation and grace. So therefore, your end result is going to be death and disaster.
Well, sure.
It's kinda like,
It's the unforgivable sin, right? The unforgivable sin is unbelief. If you don't believe, you're not asking for forgiveness, you cannot be forgiven. That's what grieving the Holy Spirit is. That's what Jesus means by that. Because what does the Holy Spirit bring to us? Faith, right? The Holy Spirit, that's a gift of faith from the Holy Spirit. All right, moving on. You shall not wrong a sojourner or oppress him, for you were sojourners in the land of Egypt. You shall not,
Just snarky, but people have debated online about that one. You have to point out that borders have to exist in the first place for sojourners to exist at all.
yeah.
That doesn't mean we need them once they're here, but
Right.
still that implies the existence of borders.
Okay. You shall not mistreat any widow or fatherless child. If you do mistreat them and they cry out to me, I will surely hear their cry, and my wrath will burn, and I will kill you with the sword, and your wives shall become widows, and your children fatherless. That's pretty strong. And verse 24, my wrath will burn. That's an idiom, the Hebrew idiom. My wrath will burn. The actual word is my nose will burn. Yeah. The word that's translated as wrath is God's nose is burning. And it's kind of an interesting image if you think about that. I always think about the cartoon bulls, they're snorting and you see the redness and that's the wrath of God there. That's what I think of. Right? What was it, Ferdinand the Bull or something like that? The big, the angry face.
Was the guy who was very passive, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Sat under the tree.
Like looking at flowers. Okay. So don't wrong a sojourner or oppress him. And that's, as Anthony said, you still have to have borders in order for somebody to be sojourner, right? Now, verse 25. If you lend money to any of my people if you lend money to any of my people with you who is poor, you shall not be like a money lender to him, and you shall not exact interest from him. If ever you take your neighbor's cloak in pledge, you shall return it to him before the sun goes down, for that is his only covering, and it is his cloak for his body. In what else shall he sleep? And if he cries to me, I will hear, for I am compassionate. You shall not revile God, nor curse a ruler of your people. You shall not delay to offer from the fullness of your harvest and from the outflow of your presses. The firstborn of your sons you shall give to me. Yes, you shall do the same with your oxen and with your sheep. 7 days it shall be with his mother. On the 8th day you shall give it to me. You shall be consecrated to me. Therefore you shall not eat any flesh that is torn by beasts in the field. You shall throw it to the dogs. You shall not spread a false report, bear false witness, right? You shall not join hands with a wicked man to be a malicious witness. You shall not fall in with the many who do evil, nor shall you bear witness in a lawsuit, siding with the many so as to prefer justice, nor shall you be partial to a poor man in his lawsuit. If you meet your enemy's ox or his donkey going astray, you shall bring it back to him. If you see the donkey of one who hates you lying down under its burden, you shall refrain from leaving him with it. You shall rescue it with him. You shall not pervert the justice due to your poor in his lawsuit. Keep far from a false charge and do not kick the innocent and righteous. Do not kill the innocent and righteous, for I will not acquit the wicked. And you shall take no bribe, for a bribe blinds the clear-sighted and subverts the cause of those who are in the right. You shall not oppress a sojourner. This is the second time. You know the heart of a sojourner, for you were sojourners in the land of Egypt. Okie doke. Again, rules that make sense to us, right? Just because somebody's from a foreign land doesn't mean that you treat them as less than or, you know, put them to work in your fields for as a slave or anything like that. There's certain things that you have to do as the people of Israel. You treat them with respect, and this goes with it's a hospitality thing, and for that area, hospitality is very huge. The especially among the Semitic peoples, the Arabs, and that are in that area, it's still to this day, hospitality is huge. Even if it's your enemy and you go and ask for a drink of water, they can't deny that. If you're seated and having tea in the tent, they can't kill you. Not right then. Once you leave, you can. But and it comes from their nomadic existence a lot of times, because you meet each other in the desert, and you're both nomads. Hospitality is everything. You share and share alike. That way everybody can survive. So it's yeah.
Question about the firstborn, with the animals, so on and so forth. I assume that's sacrifice the firstborn of the animals. But verse 22.
Verse 22. No, that's not it.
29, I'm sorry.
29. Okay. Yeah, the firstborn, that means that they're consecrated to the Lord.
But it talks about the son. Should be the same for son.
Yeah.
Meaning you could bring him to, sacrifice your son. I'm sure that's not
No, they're consecrated.
to the temple.
Yeah, they're consecrated to God. They bring the story probably that you know best is Samuel. His mother at the time brings him to the temple to be consecrated.
So are we supposed to be bringing our firstborn sons to our pastors? And you get to raise them up?
No,
Well, it's not what happened with Samuel.
it's a special case.
I-
She dedicated.
Special child.
She told God that if Hagar, was it Hagar? Yeah. Hannah said, if you will give me a child, I will dedicate him. He will serve you all his days. So she brings him to Eli, when he's of age and he's raised in the temple. That was a very special case. That was an oath that she made. So, and Samuel became arguably the greatest of the prophets, or at least one of the big ones. And he wrote 2 books, so it must have been pretty good. Actually, if somebody wants to leave their child, you can leave it at a fire station, at an emergency room. No, seriously, or at a police station. I think a church is also an example of a place, a sanctuary place where you can leave a child. I think I think it's in the state of California. You're allowed to do that, right?
Yeah, but they have to be under 2 weeks old? There's an age limit to it.
I'm sure.
I tried to do it, but they wouldn't take it.
I wonder if I could do that with my 28-year-olds.
Safe surrender.
Huh?
Safe surrender.
Safe surrender. That's it. All right. So we've talked a little bit about the homeowner, the guilty. The first question, the first bullet point there. Some cases of injustice cannot be handled in court. One of them is noted in verse 22. Which would be worse, to stand before a human judge or to be judged by God? Verse 22. Yeah. If you do mistreat them and they cry out to me, I will surely hear their cry, and my wrath will burn, my nose will burn, and I will kill you with the sword, and your wives shall become widows and your children fatherless. But it reminds me of that fatherless part. It was in Monty Python and the Holy Grail when they come up to the castle, the French knights are up there. Your mother was a hamster and your father smelled of elderberries. You fatherless child. I'm sorry. Though.
Curse is not even better.
Would God be relying on the judges to carry out those sentences? I mean, God, obviously, it's not God.
I'm assuming elders at this time would be the ones that would be whoever the tribal elder is. They would say, okay, you are. I'm sure there was some kind of a political organization there to carry out the things, and just said, okay, this is what you must do. And here God is giving them specifics. If this happens, then this happened. Here's the 10 Commandments. But let's do, look at 23 verse 1. You shall not spread a false report, which is interesting, right? It's not that you shall not make a false report. You shall not spread a false report. Yeah.
If you're,
Don't be a gossip.
if you're spreading something you know to be false,
Yes.
you're also making a false statement.
You absolutely are. It's and how many times when incidents happen, in our world today, and the media, or it doesn't matter which media it is, either new media, the internet media, or old, mainstream media, they jump on the story and then they have to retract it, 5 days later after they discover, oh, that's not exactly what was going on. So.
Luther clarifies it even more precisely.
Hmm.
Even if you're making what you believe to be a true report, but it's not your place to be spreading it,
Yeah.
then that's also bearing false witness because you're lying about yourself.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about it from that point of view. That makes sense. You're actually saying that you have the authority by spreading it.
That shocked me when I was reading it. I was like, oh, he's right too.
Yeah. All right. So, obviously it's always worse to land in God's hands. Another thought that comes to me is a sermon I had to read in high school. Probably most of you guys had to read it too. Jonathan Edwards, Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. I had an American literature class in high school. It was because that was First Great Awakening. That was one of the most famous sermons ever preached and dispersed throughout the colonies. So you never read Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God by, oh my goodness. Have you read it? Well, my favorite part is, my favorite part is his description of how we stand before God. It is as, he said, it's as if you're on a spider on a thread sitting over a flame. And the only thing protecting you from that flame is the hand of God. It's like, God merely has to move his hand and you will burn. It's like, okay. I mean, that was, it was actually in my high school American literature class. Had to read that. Go ahead, read the part.
All of your righteousness would have no more influence to uphold you and keep you out of hell than a spider's web would have to stop a falling rock. Were it not for the sovereign pleasure of God, the earth would not bear you one moment. For you are a burden to it. The creation groans with you. The creature is made subject to the bondage of your corruption, not willingly. The sun does not willingly shine upon you to give you light, to serve sin and Satan.
He's intense. Like I said, this is our First Great Awakening in the late 1700s. No, it's about mid 1700s. Jonathan Edwards was mid to late. But yeah, it's stronger than a cup of coffee. But he was the original of the fire and brimstone preachers. That's so. All right, let's look at verse 28. Why is the law that's given in that something we should take heart to today. Verse 28, you shall not revile God nor curse a ruler of your people. So I think that's, no matter how bad our rulers may be, it's we honor the office, right? We talked about this last week with honoring your father and mother. We honor the office. Doesn't matter who's in it. We honor the office.
Paul, even went so far as to say, God puts the governments in place.
He does.
Whether we like them or not.
Right.
I think curse is different than disagreeing.
Oh yeah. Obviously, it's very much, disagreement is not a curse. Wishing death upon somebody is the curse. So, everybody says, around the table, never to debate politics or religion. I'll debate religion with anybody. I'll debate politics with anybody, but I don't want to. It seems like just in more recent ages that people can't just, okay, we disagree. It's,
You forgot what it means to agree to disagree.
yeah.
That's a foreign concept.
I have a very, my big brother in my fraternity from college was 1983, right? He came and visited. He's a close friend of my family's. Last year when I was visiting Dad, he happened to be in town too, and he and his wife came over and we sat and talked. And he's like, Kenny, I know you're not the same politically as me. And I said, yeah, I know. He's like, but he was my big brother, okay? He said, but I still love you. I said, I love you too, man. I don't understand why people can't just talk. He's like, yeah. Now he lives in Portugal, which is kind of cool. So
Everybody wants the same thing. They want security for their family. They want,
security for the country.
It's the same stuff that everybody wants.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, and I always said I could compromise with the Democrat on almost any single issue that comes up, except for one.
Except for one. Yeah.
But yet you can't compromise on anything anymore.
Yeah. It's sad. It really is sad. There's certain subjects that don't come up at my dinner table. Because my kids have different political. I'm not saying that they're bad political positions, but they have different political positions. So
What I do is honestly not bring up religion
Yeah.
in particular with extended family
okay,
until they're dying.
until they're dying. There you go. All right, let's look at this. Most of us have sinned against the law given in 23 verse 2, which is, you shall not fall in with the many to do evil, nor shall you bear witness in a lawsuit siding with the many so as to pervert justice, nor shall you be partial to a poor man in his lawsuit. All right, so it's basically being swept away by the crowd, right? There's a lot of voices on social media right now, and I do my best not to be consumed with. I watch the entertaining things, or the sometimes I watch like law stuff, like the actual courtroom videos. But the fun thing I think is there's a Midwestern pickleball tournament. Have you seen that little short? Huh? It's just look it up. Go on YouTube and look up Midwestern pickleball tournament. It's hilarious. Huh? Yeah. Well, there's a channel called It's a Southern Thing. You wouldn't understand. It's a Southern Thing. And that's got a lot of Southern type of attitudes in it. It's like, yeah, and I look and I'm going, oh, it's not wrong. One of the greatest things that the South has is a little shop called the Waffle House. Never eaten a Waffle House? You missed it. Really, the best time to eat at the Waffle House is 2 a.m. after you've been drinking all night. No. I mean, I just like their food. It's
Isn't that
just,
where the soccer team is visiting? They just, the Waffle House.
oh, I don't know. Maybe is that a skit?
America's the greatest because you can go out to all these restaurants.
Oh, yeah.
And the Waffle House, they were just, bombarding it.
Yeah, probably so. All right. And how do you handle when going along with the crowd and then you realize the crowd's wrong? How do you handle that type of thing? Hopefully leave. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think if I've ever been in a situation where I had, yeah, I have. There's been times when I've had to just. I do remember one time. I don't know if I want to put it on the internet, but I used to go to this little club in back in Texas, and it was a Friday night. We were watching this band, and it's getting near closing time, and I'm just sitting down, and this guy comes up, and he's just got a wild look in his eye, But I'm with my buddies. They're not at the table right there, and he just got this wild look in his eye, and he starts talking. He starts talking crazy stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, I can see what you're saying. Just try to be agreeable. Don't want to start anything. One of my friends is federal law enforcement. He worked at the national park, and he said, "Yeah, I was watching." I'm like, really? He goes, "Yeah." So he comes over and starts talking to the guy, and the guy immediately starts backing off and then leaves the table. But I wanted to get out of there really quickly. That was not a time when I was hanging with wicked people, but that was an encounter I don't think I would ever want to replay because it was tense. I knew I could defend myself, but I still didn't want to. I mean, my vision is always local pastor involved in bar brawl as the headlines. You know what I'm saying? Not the best look. Yeah.
You probably have no overflow congregation.
Well, maybe so. Probably so. But that's one of those. Yeah. I always think of the headlines before I do something. It's like.
Sometimes that can get ahead of you, though.
Well,
It's disastrous youth group. Okay, they're gonna paddle canoe or something, the Colorado River. It turned out to be disastrous. And as the pastor was standing in line at the casino, rooms for the kids, it's just like, you can see
Right.
that pastor, takes youth group to
To
the
casino, yeah.
But you're right, you gotta watch that.
Yeah, it's.
And Anthony, that was Tim, not Stephen.
And I always think of like drinking and driving. I think that'd be one of the worst things that not the worst thing, obviously, but local pastor arrested for driving under the influence. That's like, all right. Are you drunk? I'm drunk in the Holy Spirit. Lord, please change this wine back to water. Principles noted in verses 4 and 5. If you meet an enemy's ox or his donkey going astray, you shall bring it back. This is very simple. You find something of your neighbor's, bring it back, right? If you see the donkey of one who hates you lying down under its burden, you shall refrain from leaving him with it. You shall rescue it with him. In other words, treat your enemy almost better than your friend. And, Paul actually talks about this in is it Romans? Or is it James that talks about it? Where you go and you actually go the extra mile, and in doing so, you'll heap burning coals on his head. What does that mean? It means you will shame him, your enemy, because of how he has treated you, and you're treating him good, never returning evil for good, or evil for evil, but always returning evil for good. Huh? Kill him with kindness. Yeah. It's that, and if the person feels no shame, then it's the one thing you do know is that your conscience is now clear because you did the right thing. Because what's the old adage? While in the moment it might feel good to return evil for evil, in the end, it never satisfies. Revenge rarely satisfies, except in the movies. So, it's satisfying to see the bad guy die, but in real life, getting justice for something, it's neutral at best, I guess. Does that make sense? It never will make you feel the way you think it will. Put it that way. All right. So we can take to heart a lot of these Old Testament laws and apply them to our lives of service to God. But what's different about the Israelites' relationship to God's laws and ours? Christ. We kind of talked about that today in our message. It was, what I'm saying? It's because of Christ we are now freed to obey the law without the condemnation. They were not freed. They had to follow the law. That was, and we talked about this last week. The reason for the law is to set them apart from every other nation around them. To say these people worship one God, not many gods. These people worship the way their God tells them to worship. And we have seen the power of this God. We don't want to come up against this God. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I love your analogy about the bear. To me, it's so vividly that, the bear being the law.
Yep.
And it's a very scary, life-threatening,
Well, eternally threatening, yeah.
But when it's behind the bars in the zoo, it still is threatening. It still is dangerous.
Yeah.
But I ain't gonna worry about it a little bit.
Yeah,
I loved it.
the law is somewhat, it offers no condemnation for us. That's what it means when Paul writes in Romans 8, therefore there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. The condemnation is gone. We're not condemned by the law. We are, in fact, saved by Christ because of his sacrifice and because of his perfect obedience. So what a major thing. What an easy thing, right? But it's always nice to hear it.